Evan reached out for the trashed cup and stowed it under his seat. Nah, come on, Scott. You're going to drink all our profits if you do that. He stretched his legs out by putting his feet on top of the cooler. Just chill. I'm going to chill by having another cup, said Scott. There it was, that mean bite in Scott's voice. Evan's shoulders tensed up. Move your feet, said Scott. It's hot out here. Dude, you're... Evan sat up expectantly and looked down the street. Hey, here comes our first customer. A mother pushing a double stroller came into view. At the same time, one of the kindergartners from down the street rode her bike up, noticed the sign, and quickly pedaled back to her house. Within 5 minutes, there was a small crowd of neighborhood kids and pedestrians buying lemonade from the stand. Evan let Scott handle all the money while he took care of pouring in the sweet talk. That's what his mother called it when a salesperson chatted her up. Trust me, she had once told Evan and Jessie, buying something is only half about getting something. The other half is all about human contact. Mrs. Tresky knew about these things because she was a public relations consultant. She'd even written a book called 10 Bright Ideas to Light Up Your Sales for one of her clients, and Evan was like her. He was good at talking with people, even grown-ups. It was easy for him. So he kept the conversation flowing along with the lemonade. People hung around. Most of them bought a second cup before they left. Evan was so busy he almost didn't notice Jessie flying out of the garage on her bike and riding down the street toward town. Good riddance, he thought, but at the same time he wondered where she was going. During a lull in business, Evan walked all around the stand, picking up discarded plastic cups. Scott sat in his chair, jingling the coins in his pocket. Man, we're going to be so rich, said Scott. I bet we've made $5 already. I bet we made 10. How much do you think we've made? Evan shrugged. He looked back at the stack of used cups in his hand and counted the rims. 14. They'd sold 14 cups so far, and each cup of lemonade cost 50 cents. Evan heard Mrs. DeFazio's voice in her ear. Mrs. DeFazio had been his third-grade teacher, and she'd done everything she could to trip up Evan with math, or to help Evan with math, not trip up. If 1 cup of lemonade sells for 50 cents and you sell 14 cups of lemonade, how much money have you made? Word problems. Evan hated word problems. And this one was impossible anyway. He was pretty sure the right equation was 14 times 50 equals. But how was he supposed to solve that? That was a double-digit multiplication. There was no way he could do a problem like that. And besides, some of those 14 people had bought refills but used the same cup. How many? Evan didn't know. Still, he knew they'd made a pretty good amount of money. The estimate was close enough for him. How much do you think we could make if we sold it all? Asked Scott. I don't know, said Evan. Maybe $20? That sounded high even to him, but Evan was an optimist. Do you really think? Both boys looked at the cooler. 3 pitchers were empty. They only had half a pitcher left. You were pouring the cups too full, said Scott. You should have poured less in each one. You're the one who brought out the huge plastic cups. You could fit a gallon in one of those, said Evan. Besides, I wasn't going to be chintzy. They're paying a whole $50 for it. They deserve a full cup. Anyway, you can just go home and make more. My mom has cans of lemonade in the freezer. So go home and make more, said Scott. Oh, yes, Your Majesty. Oh, High Commander. Your Infantness. Why don't you go make it? 'Cause I'm chillin', said Scott, leaning back in his chair with a stupid grin on his face. Evan knew he was just joking, but this was exactly why he didn't like Scott. He was always thinking of himself, always looking for some way to come out on top. If they were playing knockout, Scott always came up with a new rule that helped him win. If they were doing an assignment together, Scott always figured out a way to divide it so he had less work to do. The kid was a weasel, no two ways about it. But everyone else was out of town. Evan didn't want to spend the day alone, and Jessie was on his poop list, as Mom called it, when the dog did something he wasn't supposed to do. Evan might never play with Jessie again. Evan crossed the street and went into the house. He was surprised to find that there were no more cans of lemonade in the freezer. There had been so many this morning. Luckily, there was a can of grape juice in the freezer and a bottle of ginger ale in the fridge. It'll work, he thought. People just want a cold drink. They don't care if it's lemonade. He mixed up the grape juice at the sink. The fruit flies were way more out of control than ever, thanks to the lemonade that the boys had dribbled on the countertop. Evan swatted a couple, but most of them drifted out of his reach and settled on the fruit bowl. He wished his mother believed in chemical warfare, but for Mrs. Tresky, it was all natural or nothing. Usually nothing. When he went back outside to the lemonade stand, Evan noticed that the last pitcher was turned upside down on the cooler. "Oh, come on, Scott," he said. "What? It was hot, and you said we could always make more." Yeah, well, we didn't have as much in the house as I thought. I've got grape juice and ginger ale. I hate ginger ale, Scott said. I wouldn't give you a penny for it. It turned out that a lot of people felt the same way. Business was definitely slower. The day got hotter. The sun beat down on them so ferociously that it was easy to imagine the sidewalk crackling open and swallowing from the inside. Fanning himself, Evan asked, "How much money do you really think we could make?" "I don't know," said Scott, putting his baseball cap down over his eyes. "I mean, on a hot day like this," Evan said, silently adding the words, "or tomorrow. If we sold 8 pitchers of lemonade, what do you think we'd make?" 8 pitchers? I don't know. Scott shook his head. His baseball capped face wagged back and forth. Too hot for math. And it's summer. Evan pulled the red pen out of his pocket and started to write on the palm of his hand. 8 times 50 divided by 2. That didn't seem right. Jessie would know. She'd do that math in a second. Evan capped the pen and jammed it into his pocket. "But I bet it's a lot," said Evan. "I bet on a hot day like this we could actually make some real money in the lemonade business." "Yeah," said Scott. "Then we'd be rich, and I'd get an Xbox. The new one, with dual controls." "I'd get an iPod," said Evan. He'd been saving for one for over a year, but every time he had some money put away, well, it just disappeared. Like the $10 from Grandma. She'd even written in her card, "Here's a little something to help you get the music thing you want." But the money was gone. He treated Paul and Ryan to slices of pizza at Townhouse. It had been fun. That would be great. "To listen to music whenever I want," said Evan. "I could tune you out," he added in his head.